All right, so we're in this last week of Rubber Band, and while we may not have some of those logos, what we do have today is we have bulletins in your hand, and there's a reason why we have bulletins, is because we've heard the cry, and we've heard the complaints, and you guys don't care about trees, and you said just cut them down and give me my bulletin. I need the paper. I got to have my notes, and I get it. Okay, so and see, this is your church, and so through the cries, we've responded. Here you go. Well, it worked out perfect today because now that it's down, you can fill in the blanks, and we can go forward from there, right? Here you go, and that A-type personality that's there. Now, what I wanted to talk about today is having the important. See, all of us have things in our lives that we have going on. Anybody ever go, I wish I had more time for? Anybody ever say that? I wish I had more time for this. I want to spend more time with the kids. I want to be able I wish I had more time to pray. I wish I had more time to read. I wish I had more time to work out, right? These are all things that we say. I wish I had more time to spend with my friends or go fishing, or I wish I had more time to travel or to serve. These are all things that we say. We go, I wish I had more time for this. None of us ever go, I wish I had more time to mow the lawn, right? I wish I had more time to do the dishes. I wish I had more time to change diapers. I just wish I had more time for that. I wish I had more mouths to feed. Ooh, maybe some of you do wish for that. I wish I had more bills to pay. How about that? Anybody want that? These are all things, we don't wish for that, right? I wish, and see, the thing is that we get a little off track because how we live our lives currently is driving us to those things. How we currently live our lives is driving us to do things, we end up with these different things kind of going on in our lives, and we go, I'm going to go buy this TV with money I don't have. Well, none of us said I want to have this new bill. Nobody in here raised their hand and say, I want a new bill. But that's exactly what we're doing, right? If we buy something, we end up doing that. We end up putting ourselves in debt, and we become slave to the lender. Here's the thing is, people ask me, even this morning, people go, Mike, how you doing? And so I'll be honest with you. We had a wedding here last night, and it went late, and I didn't leave here until 3 in the morning. And then I got back up this morning, and I came here to this, and see, here's the thing: is that I am doing great. I'm actually ecstatic that I get to be here. I woke up this morning, I was in a good mood. I just knew that I had this looming thing. I got to go fix this. And it said, even if it doesn't get fixed, here's the deal: God's still here, and God's going to move today. He's going to move, and He's going to move through what we're doing. He's going to move through everything that's happening. All this tech, if it all went away, and the building went away, God's still going to move here today. And so we just have to, so I look at these things and I go, if I'm going to go in that direction, and I'm going to go, what is important versus what is urgent? So, because we do things depending upon their urgency, right? We go, I got to take care of this. I got to get it done right now. I got to move this. I got to, whatever it is. And we end up going in that direction of urgency rather than importance. So today, the important thing was for me to share the word. That's the important thing. But a lot of times we end up focusing on these urgent things. I got to fix the media. I got to fix that. I got to fix this. While that is an urgent thing, and we're a media-driven church, that's not what's important. What we need to do is put a system in place to where that doesn't happen on Sunday mornings. We need to have we've made it important to put a system in place to go, on Thursday we check this, and all these things happen. The problem is that it's a Windows computer, and you know how Windows are when you want to use a computer. It's time to update. Common response for us, how are you doing? Busy. Isn't that a common response for almost all of us, though? How are you doing? I'm busy. Lots going on. Lots of stuff happening. And see, the thing is, the devil can't make you bad. That's a choice that we make, but the devil can make you busy. That's what he does a lot of times. He just makes us busy. And it makes it to where we actually kind of lose this. And so kind of part of our stretching and our growth in the final week of the series, what I really wanted us to do was start focusing on some things that allowed us to take care of the important, not just the urgent. How many of you often feel like there's just too much to do? There's just too much to get done. There's too much to do. And you often feel rushed. Anybody, you ever feel like, I got to get to this point, I just feel rushed all the time, and then you feel that there's never enough hours in the day. I just can't ever get anything done. There's just never enough time. You know, and see, here's the thing is that, and I'll tell you, is that never say I don't have enough time. Because here's the thing, you have time for what you choose to have time for. You have time for what you choose to have time for. If something is important to you, you will make time for it. You will, if you go, I have to do this, you will make time for it. You have time for what is important, what you choose. See, the thing is, you have to choose the important over the urgent. You have to choose the important over the urgent. You can't keep going through and go, you know, I've got to, you know, see, here's what a lot of times, and I think a lot of places are like this. One of my greatest complaints, and I think the city of Fairfield is changing, is that we've gotten to this point where the city has been very reactive to crime. You know, somebody calls and they go and take care of it instead of being proactive, and the city's changed that. This new chief that's in place is starting to really make this change. And really and I think that's a lot of times everywhere. We become very reactive to things. We get to this point, we go, that happened, how do we fix it? Instead of going, how do we prevent this from happening? How do we get to this point and set up things in place to prevent all of this from happening and going in that direction? You know, see, here's the thing. If you walk into, you know, for years I worked as Walmart manager, and I got a phone call one day from the guy at the customer service desk, and he goes, hey Mike, I got a question for you. And I go, yeah, what's up? He goes, there's a guy here right now, and I'm denying his return, and he's screaming at me. What am I supposed to do? Why are you denying his return? I said, does he have a receipt? Yes. Okay, well, what's the problem? Well, it's a toothbrush, and he's been using it for 6 months. Okay. So what's the problem? We're not going to sell it again. Return it. He's going to go spend that money in our store again. What are you doing? Just take care of it. But instead, over a $3 item, we let somebody yell and scream at us at the front counter. How do you think that comes off to everybody else who walks into the store? You know, and see, Walmart's gotten a bad rap because of some of the business practices that some managers have done. You know, and it's changed a lot. And I'll tell you is that it's not a great place to work. But if you need a job, it's a job. It's a place to work, right? You know, and so I'm not here to. That's not part of the message. I'm just trying to say is that sometimes we put things that we look at and go, why are we fighting over that? Why are we, you know, so I'll tell you in my notes, I put a business calming an angry customer, that's urgent. Okay, but if we put business practices in place that prevent customers from getting angry, that's important. That's what we need to do. We need to put those things in place. See, getting your car repaired because it broke down and you got to get to work, that's urgent. You have to get that done. But doing the maintenance, that's important. You know, so if that would prevent it from breaking down. See, here's the, you know, and there's a common example. I get in my wife's car, and in my wife's car, we got a little sticker up there that says, get your oil changed at this point, right? So one day I got in the car, and I looked at that sticker, and it was 10,000 miles past. And I go, hey, did you not see the sticker up here? That's like in the way. I mean, I see it all the time. She goes, I did. I just didn't have time for it, right? Well, but see, here's the thing is that if we don't do those things, if we don't take care of the important thing like changing the oil, what happens is that we end up having to deal with an urgent thing like a car breaking down. You know, and it's you know, when you get sick, you know, you need to get help, right? You know, getting help when you're sick is urgent. That's something that you have to take care of. You got to go get that things. But taking care of yourself so you don't get sick, that's important. You kind of see how these things are going to where you look at this, and a lot of times we are very reactive. We put things in this urgent care category because we didn't plan and do the important stuff first. How is that when we do everything else? If you do the important, you won't have as many things that are urgent. If you do the important, you won't have as many things that are urgent. You'll have things that are urgent, but you won't have as many things that are urgent. Choose the important over urgent. Now, Luke wrote in his letter about these two sisters. You know, maybe you heard of Mary and Martha. And he wrote about that. And Jesus and his disciples, and this is Luke 10, Jesus and his disciples were on their way, and he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. So, Martha kind of felt some pressure, right? She's all, Jesus just walked in my door. You know, I got to clean this place up, like right now. I got to get this taken care of. And see, it wasn't just a regular guest. It wasn't like, hey, it was the neighbor who came over, borrowed a cup of sugar, you invited them in. No, this was Jesus. Jesus just walked in. And so now what am I going to do? How am I going to make this happen? Like with a regular guest, you just take everything and you throw it in the closet. You don't actually you don't even put it away. You just shove it all in there. It's a common thing. At our house, when we have to hide some stuff, we put it in the garage. So that's the reason why the garage gets the way it gets sometimes. But when you come over, it's like, but we have those spots that you go, let me put that away. We try and put it underneath the carpet. Well, Martha knows, that's Jesus. He'll know that I did that. I can't do that. I can't hide it. I can't put it in the closet. I got to actually clean. I got to get it done. I got to put it away. And so it becomes this urgent thing to get it done, to get it. The Son of God just walked in the door. The place better be immaculate. You see, the thing is that there was kind of something that was a little more important. See, we have to get to this point where we have this love, and this love of spending time with God. We have to have this love of spending time with Jesus. We have to get to this point where we have this love. See, and what the problem is, we try and put all these other things in the way of doing that. We try and put all these other things, and we go, I got this excuse. I've got this going on. I got that going on. I got the kids going to soccer. I got softball. I got this. I got that. All these things that, and granted, they're great for kids' development, and they're great for all those things, but the problem is that you've taken away the most important thing, and you've neglected your relationship with Christ because you got busy doing all of these other things. And so, and kind of just one of these side things that I'll throw out there, and I won't go on a tangent like I did the last time, but when you are trying to go and you're trying to pursue Christ and you're trying to raise these kids, so pick one or two activities at a time. So, if you have them in Awanas and you have them in something else, don't go, hey, let's go do this too. Let's get them involved in a gymnastics, and let's get them in this, or let's get them in that. Just pick one or two things. I will tell you, when I was a kid, I got one thing, and that was sports. And if football overlapped into another sport, it stayed with one sport. We didn't go, well, I'm going to be playing football and baseball at this time. It was, you're going to play one or the other because I'm only taking you to one place. I have things that are much more important than taxiing you around. And see, the thing is, if you have, just an example, you have 3 children, what happens is that if they're all 3 in different things, let's just take the tour of Fairfield or Vacaville or, wherever you're at in order to drop them off every afternoon. You go, I'm so busy, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Well, stop touring the city with your kids, dropping them off at events that aren't actually helping them grow. You're just going, oh, here, just go and do this. I need some time alone. See, Martha missed the important, and she focused on the urgent. She missed it. She missed out on it. And even Jesus, in verse 40, but Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to Jesus, and she asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me. She goes and tattles, right? Isn't what sisters do to one another? My kids tattle on one another all the time. And it's like, but that's what she goes and does. She goes and tattles. Instead of going, hey, I need to fix this, or I need to focus on what's more important, she goes, well, wait a minute, she should be in trouble here now. Martha was distracted by all the preparations. A couple weeks ago, I have this tendency to do it a lot, and maybe you guys do it too. Anybody, you ever lost your keys? Or maybe your cell phone when you're trying to walk out the door? You're like, I gotta go. Maybe that's happened once or twice to you. And you go, I gotta find my keys. And I'll even get my wife involved. I go, babe, where are my keys at? Where are they at? And she'll go, well, what were you wearing yesterday? And I go, I was wearing some jeans. All right, and so I'll go and she'll go check those. And the whole time I'm walking around downstairs, just like this, like literally, where are my keys at? The whole time, the keys were in my hand. Or they were sitting like right next, or it's like, I got to get my phone, or I got to get my sunglasses. And the whole time, they're right there. And the problem has been is that we get so caught up on what we're going to do that we even forgot about the first thing that we needed in order to go do that thing. We get so sidetracked. The keys the whole time were in my hand. What if you're distracted? Start thinking about this in your life. What if you're distracted? You're faithfully pleasing to the urgent. You end up truly missing the important. Isn't that what's going on if we're faithfully pleasing to the urgent? Because that's what we do all the time. We're always reacting. Then we're missing out on the important things of being proactive. 41, and verse 41. Martha, the Lord answered, worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better and will not be taken away from her. You know, what's the most important thing? And in your notes, I put it down there. If you're filling it out on the app or whatever, what's the most important thing that you've been distracted from pursuing? Start thinking about this. What's the most important thing that you've been distracted from pursuing? Doing or being? There's other things. Is it time with God? You've been distracted from, you've been taking care of whatever it is, and you just haven't been spending time with God? Or maybe it's time with your kids. You've been so distracted doing all these other things that you don't even have any time with your kids. Maybe you've gotten so busy that you don't have any time in your marriage. You don't have time to go work out. You've been pursuing all these important things that you believe are important, that's urgency, but you've missed out on what truly is important. You haven't read. You haven't read a journal. You haven't been to church because everything was so urgent that we had to take care of this that it became more important than actually going to church or spending time with God. Choose the important over the urgent. What is it that you've been avoiding? What is it that you haven't been doing? What is it that you've missed out on that you're supposed to be doing? See, we have to get to this point where we have to choose the important or the urgent. How do we do that? How do we choose that? What do we have to do here? So I'll give you some steps that you should start with. Number one, create an artificial deadline. So for me, the message is due on Wednesday. That's my deadline. It's an artificial deadline. I try to make it as often as possible. Sometimes I miss it. Sometimes I roll. Like this week, the message was done on Monday, but we have to create artificial deadlines to go, this is when I'm going to be done with this. When you do a vacation, you have to create this artificial deadline. I'm going to plan a vacation. This is what I'm going to do. These are the steps I'm going to do to get there. So that you can start saving up money for it, so you're not paying for this year's vacation over the next 2 years or 3 years. So if you want to leave the office every day by 4 o'clock, then you have to start planning to leave at 3:45, because you know what happens when you want to leave at 4. You leave at 4:15, 4:30. My wife's back there, no, 5 o'clock. But that's what happens. If you go, I want to leave at this time, you need to start planning and making an artificial deadline. I need to be done with my work, so whatever's going to happen as I'm walking out of the door, that I can take care of that as well and still leave on time. Leave the office, whatever time that you're supposed to do, but instead of 15 minutes earlier. You want to make faster decisions? Be able to delegate. Be willing to delegate. Be willing to give some things up. Here's the other thing that you have to be willing to do. Say no. It's okay to say no. In fact, you've said no a good portion of your life. You just happen to say no a lot of times at the wrong things. You say no to things that are important instead of saying yes, and you say yes to things that end up being urgent that really weren't important. So what you have to do is you have to be ruthlessly selective in your yeses. Be ruthlessly selective in your yeses. Now, this barrier is a meaningful life, not a lack of commitment. That's what I'm trying to tell you, is that just because you say no to something doesn't mean you're not committed to it. Maybe it's just that you're not available. But what it is, it's really trying to prevent you from being overcommitted to things. By saying no, you help prevent being overcommitted to things. Busyness does not equal productivity. I want to tell you that right now. Being busy does not mean that you were actually productive that day. Yeah, I mean, if you just start looking at it. And so a lot of times we end up putting out fires all day long and actually not taking care of the things that actually cause those fires. We're like, I got to be reactive, and we're trying to when really we need to put together a plan that allows us to be productive, not so busy. Busy is not good. Some people ask me, Mike, how do you do it all? I don't. That's just the truth. I don't. I have people around me that make up for a lot of the things that I don't do. You know, and if you start looking, is that I've realized that in order for me to be able to truly grow, I have to start taking things off my plate. And that means if we do less, then I have to do less. But that doesn't mean that we do less as an organization. That means we bring on people who can do those things and help manage and help carry us in those different ways. What I'd like to be able to do is I'd like to be able to start doing the things that I've dreamed of doing. And so in order to do that, I have to say I have to say no to good things in order to get the best things. So I have to say no to good things in order to say yes to get the best things. It's just how we have to get in our mindset. And so I bring people around me that are helping me do that. The best leaders don't do more. They do more of what matters. That's just the truth. The best leaders do not do more. They do more of what matters. And then, when you start to look at your days, everybody ever heard of putting together like a productivity sheet? You know, I got to put together a to-do list. You know, and then, you know, I call it eating the frog. Okay, so what I do is I put together a morning list of the things I want to get done, and I'll have a little checklist, and I go, okay, I kind of put them in a list of priority. I go, I want to do it this way. I want to go in this direction. And so I have like a list of 1 to 10. And I almost always, number 1 is something I really don't want to do. That's kind of, you know, it's always something I just don't want to do. But it's usually the thing that gives the greatest impact in ministry, that first thing. If I take care of that, then all of a sudden, everything else will go fine for the day. So I do that first because it's just easier to eat the frog in the beginning of the day in order to have the rest of the day be productive. It's just easier to go, I'll just take care of that now instead of dreading it and actually not being productive on your other items in order to roll that over to the next day. That's what happens, is that we take things and we go, I don't want to take care of that, and we roll it to the next day instead of doing what it was important and taking care of that first. See, what you have to do is you have to do first what matters most. Do first what matters most. Don't just do busy work. Do first what matters most. If I have time, I'll work out. Do first what matters most. If you want to do that, take care of it. If we have time, we'll go on a date. That's what marriages say all the time. Oh, we got to get some time. We'll go on a date. If one day, we'll take that weekend getaway. One day it'll happen if we get some time. I wish we had time for blank, 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 whatever it is. You have time for what you choose to have time for. You have time for what you choose to have time for. Do first what matters most. Reacting to what everyone else wants. We have this problem that we react to what everyone else wants from me most of the time. We get to this point and we go, I got to go take care of that because that's what people want from me right now. I got to take care of that. Instead of going, you know, when you're selective with your yeses and you go, no, I can't take care of that right now. I'll put it on my list. I'll get it done tomorrow. So you can say no. No is not a bad word. And we've made it like the worst word ever. Don't say no to me. No. You know, we've kind of created this monster of this word. You know, what you have to do is, you know, and what I'll tell you is that maybe you have to get to this point where you start initiating and creating a calendar of your values and your priorities. You know, on your calendar, do you have things I look at my calendar, and I have two. I have an office calendar and I have a personal calendar. But I look at them and I go, man, I really have to start getting better at scheduling my values. I have to get better at scheduling my priorities and things that are important. You know, and going, okay, you know, because when I put things on my schedule, they get done. If I don't put it on my schedule, it just gets missed. So when you start looking at this and go, and you need date night, put it on your schedule. Put it there. So that way it happens. You know, if you need to have this time with your kids, put it on your schedule. Like my phone now alerts me when it's time to leave. Go home because you got this scheduled. Leave now. This is where you're going. You have to make this priority of scheduling what you value and what's most priority. You know, you get to this point, and for me, like at our house, I'd like to have more people come over. I just would. But I have this holdup. You know, it's so hard for us to get our house ready because we live, right? We're busy people. And we have and see, Melissa is kind of opposite of that. She would choose people over perfection. You know, she just chooses people and goes, that's more important than, whatever. They can judge us. It doesn't matter. But that's just her mindset, is that it's more important. It's more important the relationship. It's more important having people in your lives than worrying about what they think about the chaos maybe surrounding your life. But if you're that calm in that storm, then it's okay. You know, you gotta, what she tells me, sometimes she goes, you don't live here, you live at the office, so what does it matter what it looks like? I mean, it's just kind of how, sometimes it is. Our problem is in our lives, we've gotten to this point where our identity, we've related it to what we produce. We've made our identity what we produce, and that's not who you are. Who you are is where your values are, where your priorities. And so, are you producing disciples? That's what we're called as Christians to do. So if your identity is in what you produce, are you producing Christians? As followers of Christ, he gave us this commission. He said, I want you to go out and make disciples. And it wasn't just a good commission. He didn't call it the good commission. It's called the Great Commission. This is something it's so much greater than any one of us in here. And he said, I want you to go out and go and make disciples at all ends of the earth. Go to each corner. The funny part is that he told us to go to each corner of the earth, but the earth is round, and he knew that. Because he knew that we'd never find that corner. So he said, keep going and keep working and keep pursuing it and getting there. And see, the thing is, when you start looking, if you're trying to go, this is who I am, I'm a Christian, I'm a follower of Christ, and you start looking at your life and going, am I producing disciples? Am I producing people that are following Christ? Because a lot of times we end up producing, we're looking for wealth, and we end up producing gadgets and vehicles and homes because we end up choosing good things. Those are all good things, but they're not great things. And see, good tends to be what hinders us from actually having great things. Because we get to that point and we go, that's good enough. Instead of going, I want to pursue what's great and have what's great in my life. We end up chasing after the things that we go, oh, that's important right now, but not what's important over the long run. Look at your life years later from now. And I know that most of you don't want to ever think about this. And it's kind of one of those scary types of thoughts, but it's one of those things that kind of crosses my mind every once in a while. Is what happens when you die? What do they say about you? What does Jesus say when you get to the gates? And he gets there, and you get there, and you go, man, it's so important for me to have that iPad and those projectors that were working. Or is it so important that we make disciples? See, Martha chose the urgent. Mary chose the important. In your life, what have you chosen? What are you pursuing? So what I'd like to say is that when I get there, because when you look at this, Mary has chosen what is better and what was more important. What I'd like to be able to say is when I get there is that Jesus goes, you've chosen what was better and more important. That's what I want. And so that has to come down to is that I have to pursue things that are important in my life, not just these better things or, oh, I got to get this, or I got to get this urgent thing done, or I got to get that done, and become reactive. We have to be proactive. We have to set things up in place to make it to where we don't have to chase things down. It's really, you look at it and we hear this and it goes, man, that's very simplistic. It is very simplistic. And that's how we're supposed to live it. It's not supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be simple. One of the things that Jesus told us, he said, follow me. He said, my yoke is light. It's an easy burden to carry. And see, the thing is that back then is that, and we talked a little bit about this in men's group, is that the yoke, when the different rabbis went from city to city, they would go from, they would start in one of these cities and they would go from place to place to place, and they all taught from different books, and they taught in different, they all had their own little rules and their own little things they wanted you to do. And so they went from place to place to place. And Jesus came in, and they asked him, they asked him, and he goes, wait a minute, all that stuff, he's all, come follow me. Because if you follow me, my yoke is light. I give you very simple things. Love God, love others, go make disciples. Doesn't that sound really simplistic? That just sounds easy, right? It's just like, man, that's the easy thing. Well, all the other ones were like, well, you have these 1,100 rules that we need you to follow. Don't do this. If you touch dead meat, you got to go wash your hands for 7 days out in the middle of the woods. And he goes, no. He goes, love God, love others, and go make disciples. It wasn't about all the other rules. And this is where we've gotten in our life, is that we put all these self-made burdens on us. I got to take my kids to 40 different places because that's what they're doing. I've got to go do this because that's what that person's doing. And then we've created these self-imposed rules and we've created our own hindrance from actually following and doing what's most important. We've burdened ourselves. You know, we carry around luggage all the time. I wish I had a bag up here, but that's what we do. We have all this baggage. Jesus asked you, he goes, just follow me. And so the problem is he goes, it's us, we're like, no, I got to have this, and I got to have this, and what else can I grab around here? I got to have this, I got to take all of this stuff with me. Life becomes very difficult like this. And then, God forbid you pick up something heavy. So like I was going to pick up one of these lights. Those are heavy. And imagine carrying all this around and go, I'm following God, I'm there. You're going to fall behind at some point. Everybody else who's carrying the lighter load, they're going to be able to keep pace. But you're like, no, wait a minute, what do I got to do? I got to change arms? This is getting heavy. And then we go, no, I got to pick up something else too. This is really neat. I'm just grabbing stuff off the stage because it's here instead of walking through. This is going to be good. What else can I grab? Isn't this awkward? I look awkward. I know I do. I know this looks weird. All you on TV, I'm telling you, I'm making a point here. The problem is we get tired of having to carry all this stuff. And at some point, you're trying to figure out different ways. Well, I'll put it like this. And you'll free up your hand for a second. You go, I can grab something else now. What can I grab now? This is how our life goes. And then we pick up something else and we grab another thing. Because we figure out I can carry it like this. And then you go, hey, where'd Jesus go? Where'd he go? What happened? We got a little lost. And we tried to do what we wanted to do instead of what he asked us to do. And we run around and he goes, my yoke is light. It's easy. It's not a burden at all. In fact, he even told us, he said, come all of you that are tired and weary, and I'll give you rest. Does that sound like we're getting rest when we're walking around like that? I'm not going to pick it all back up again because you'll laugh at me, but that's all right. But does it sound like we're getting rest? Does it sound like we're being productive? Does it sound like that feeling of being weary is going away? It's not. In fact, it's getting worse. Because we keep trying to keep up with stuff or others instead of doing what God has asked us to do and following what he's asked us to do. Small change, right? I have to stop going, I want all of this new stuff. And I want more of him. I want all of his stuff that he's going to pour into me. You know what I think is that if you're overflowing from the Spirit and from what Christ gives you, that none of this even matters. When it's just overflowing, you just can't put anything else in. I've used the analogy with the buckets. Anybody ever seen the buckets that you fill them up all the way to the top? And you get them to where it's like the film on the top to where it's just sitting in there. And I asked teenagers, I said, grab that and move it to the other side of the room, but don't spill any. And see, the thing is, we pick it up, and as soon as you pick it up, it starts to spill. And you take it to the other side of the room, and there's that much left. There's that much gone. It's kind of how our relationship is with the Holy Spirit. We can get filled up, but if we don't, as soon as we start moving around and we start going out and living this life and we start trying to take care of things, guess what happens? We lose some pours out, and then we start moving fast. You ever ran around with a bucket? How much is in it when you get done? It's almost empty. That's where our lives are. We're running around and we're doing so much, that we're running around on this empty bucket. That we couldn't pour out some into another person because our bucket is so empty that we're thirsty and we're parched. We're going, where are you at in this dry and parched land? I'm thirsty. I'm looking for you. He goes, just slow down. Do what's important. Stop chasing after all this urgent stuff. Just a small change. More of him, which is more important. Less of the urgency. Make a plan. Do something a little different. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much. Thank you so much for showing us what's important. That all the busyness, it almost means nothing when it comes to your presence. There's no comparison. That we've burdened ourselves with so much. And so, Father, we ask that we cast these burdens here and now, that we just drop them here on the floor of this sanctuary, and that we create this new relationship with you, to where we pursue you and we seek you, and we put you first, and we make you most important, instead of trying to chase around these urgent things, that we put together this plan and we do this urgency with you. That we make it important and urgent that we pursue you in the morning. That we make it important that we spend time with you in your word. That we make it important that we spend time with you in prayer. And we'll start to find that these urgent matters start to fall away because it just doesn't matter as much. Father, we're thankful for this time together and just showing us this simplistic style. And maybe this is exactly what you wanted with all the tech hiccups and everything, so that way we just say that it's not that important, that you are important, that pursuing you is important, that loving others is important, to making disciples is important. Father, give us the wisdom and guide us. Continue to direct our footsteps that bring us into a closer relationship with you, that allow us to flourish and grow and come to know you so much greater than where we're at now. This love that can be overflowing from us, that we can pour out into others, because you continue to pour into us. Father, guide us. Continue to love us through our weakness, because that's what you've always done. When we're weak and we run, and Father, we're asking that you just continue to guide us through that loving hand that tries to put us back on the path. Thank you so much. It's in your Son, Jesus' name, that we pray. Amen.